Hello, hello, one and all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Uh, Welcome back to the channel, either YouTube or Twitch or wherever you watch this. We are in the final book of Paradise Lost, book 10. Um, I kind of want to do this all in one sitting, but it's one of the longer books. It's 32 pages. And it's got some really weird names in it, so we all know how that goes. Uh, so anyway, as I'm going to try to get as far through this as possible in one sitting, we shall just get on with it. So sit back, grab yourself a drink, and enjoy the tales. Book 10. Thus they in lowliest plight repentant stood, praying, for from the mercy seat above prevenient grace descending had removed the stony from their hearts, and made new flesh regenerate grow instead, that sighs now breathed unutterable, which the spirit of prayer inspired, and winged for heaven with speedier flight than loudest oratory, yet their port, not of mean suitors, nor important less, seemed their petition. Then when the ascendants pair in fables old, less ancient yet than these, Deucalion and chaste Pyrrha to restore, the race of mankind drowned before the shrine of Themis stood devout. To heaven their prayers flew up, nor missed the way by envious winds, blown vagabond to or frustrate, if they passed dimensionless through heavenly doors, then clad with incense, with the golden altar fumed, but their great intercessor came in sight before the Father's throne. Them the glad Son presenting, thus to intercede began. See, Father, what first fruits on earth are sprung from thy implanted grace in man. These sighs and prayers which in this golden censer mixed with incense, I, thy priest, before thee bring fruits of more pleasing savour from thy seed, sown with contrition in his heart, than those which his own hand manuring all the trees of paradise could have produced, if fallen from innocence. Now, therefore, bend thine ear to supplication, hear his sighs through mute unskilful, with what words to pray, let me interpret for him, me his advocate and propitiation, and all his works on me, good or not good in graft, my merit those shall perfect, and for these my death shall pay. Accept me, and me from these receive the smell of peace toward mankind. Let him live before the reconciled, at least his days numbered, though sad till death, his doom, which I to mitigate thus plead, not to reverse. Let's turn that down a bit too bold. All my to better life shall yield him. With me all my redeemed may dwell in joy and bliss, made one with me as I with thee am one, to whom the Father without cloud serene all thy request for man, accepted Son, obtain. All thy request was my decree, but longer in that paradise to dwell, the law I gave to nature him forbids. Those pure immortal elements that know no gross, no unharmonious mixture foul, eject him tainted now, and purge him off as distemper gross to air as gross, and mortal food as may dispose him best for dissolution wrought by sin. That first distempered all things, and of incorrupt corrupted, I at first with two fair gifts created him endowed with happiness in immortality, that fondly lost. This other served but to eternize woe till I proved death, so death becomes his final remedy, and after life tried in sharp tribulation and refined by faith and faithful works, to second life, waked in renovation of the just, resigns him up with heaven and earth renewed. But let us call to synod all the blessed through heaven's wide bounds. From them I will not hide my judgments, how with mankind I proceed, and how with this precant angels late they saw, and in their state, though firm, stood more confirmed. He ended, and the sun gave signal high to the bright minister that watched. He blew his trumpet, heard in Oreb since perhaps when God descended, and perhaps once more to sound at general doom. The angelic blast filled all the regions, from the blissful bowers of amaranthine shade, fountain or spring, by the waters of life, where'er they sate in fellowship of joy. The sons of light hasted, resorting to summons high, and took their seats, till from his throne supreme the Almighty thus pronounced his sovereign will. O sons, like one of us man is become to know both good and evil, since his taste of that dreadful fruit. But let him boast his knowledge of good lost and evil got. Happier had it sufficed him to have known good by itself and evil not at all. His sorrows now repents and prays contrite, my motions in him longer than they move. His heart I know how variable and vain, self-left. Least therefore his now bolder hand reach also the tree of life, and eat and live for ever, dream at least to live for ever, to remove him I decree, and send him from garden forth to till the ground whence he was taken, fitter soil. Michael, this my behest hast thou in charge. Take to thee from among the cherubim thy choice of flaming warriors, lest the fiend of or in behalf of man, or to invade vacant possession, some new trouble raise. Hast thee, and from the paradise of God without remorse, drive out the sinful pair from hallowed ground the unholy, and denounce to them and to their progeny from thence perpetual banishment. Yet least they faint at the sad sentence rigorously urged, for I beheld them softened with the tears, bewailing their excess, all terror hide. If patiently thy bidding they obey, dismiss them not disconsolate. Reveal to Adam what shall come in future days, as I shall thee enlighten. Intermix my covenant in the woman's seed renowned. So send them forth, though sorrowing, yet in peace. And on the east side of the garden place, where entrance up from Eden easiest climbs, cherubic watch, and of a sword the flame wide waving, all approach far off to fright, and guard all passage to the tree of life, lest paradise a receptacle prove to spirits foul, and all my trees their prey, with whose stolen fruit man once more to delude he ceased, and their angelic power prepared for swift descent with him the cohort bright of watchful cherubim. For faces each had like a double Janus, and all their shapes spangled with eyes more numerous than those of Argus, and more wakeful than to drowse, charmed with Arcadian pipe, the pastoral reed of Hermes, or his opiate rod. Meanwhile, to resolute the world with sacred light, Leucothea waked, and with fresh dews embalmed the earth, when Adam and first matron Eve had ended now their orisons, and found strength added from above, now new hope to spring out of despair, joy, but with fear yet linked, which thus to Eve his welcome words renewed. Eve, easily may faith admit that all the good which we enjoy for heaven descends, but that from us aught should ascend to heaven, so prevalent as to concern the mind of God high blessed, or to incline his will, hard to believe may seem. Yet this will prayer, or one short sigh of human breath, upborne even to the seat of God. For since I sought by prayer the offended deity to appease, kneeled and before him humbled all my heart, methought I saw him placeable and mild, bending his ear. Persuasion in me grew, that I was heard with favour, peace returned home to my breast, and to my remorse, and to my memory his promise, that thy seed shall bruise our foe. Which then not minded in dismay, yet now assures me that the bitterness of death is past, and we shall live. Whence hail to thee, Eve, rightly called mother of all mankind, mother of all things, since by thee man is to live, and all things live for man. To whom thus Eve, with saddened demeanour meek, ill worthy I such title should belong, to my transgressor, who for thee ordained a help, became thy snare to me reproach, rather belongs distrust and all dispraise, but infinite in pardon was my judge, that I, who first brought death on all, am graced source of life. Next favourable thou, who highly thus to entitle me vouchsafed, far other name deserving, but the field to labour calls as now sweet imposed, though after sleepless night. For see morn, all concerned with our unrest, begins her rosy progress smiling. Let us forth, I never from thy side henceforth to stray, where our day's work lies, though now enjoined laborious till day droop. While here we dwell, what can be toilsome in these pleasant walks? Here yet let us live, though in fallen state content. So spake, so wished much humbled Eve, but fate subscribed not. Nature first gave signs, impressed on bird, beast, air, ere suddenly eclipsed after a short blush of morn. Nigh in her sight the bird of Jove stooped from his airy tour. Two birds of gayest plume before him drove down from a hill the breast that reigns in woods. First hunter then pursued a gentle brace, goodliest of all the forest, hart and hind, direct to the eastern gate was bent their flight. Adam observed, and with his eye the chase pursuing, not unmoved to Eve thus spake: O Eve, some further change awaits us nigh, which heaven by these mute signs in nature shews, forerunners of his purpose, or to warn us haply to secure our discharge from penalty, because from death released some days, how long, and what till then our life, who knows? Or more than this, that we are dust, and thither must return and be no more. Why else this double object in our sight, of flight pursued in the air and o'er the ground, one way the selfsame hour? Why in the east darkness ere day's mid-course, and mid-morning light more orient in yon western cloud that draws o'er the blue firmament a radiant white, and slow descends with something heavenly fraught? He erred not, for by this heavenly bands down from a sky of jasper lighted now in paradise, and on a hill made alt, a glorious apparition had not doubt, and carnal fear that day dimmed Adam's eyes. Not that more glorious when the angels met Jacob in Mahanaim, where he saw the field pavilioned with his guardians bright, nor that which on the flaming mount appeared in Dothan covered with a camp of fire, against the Syrian king, who, to surprise one man, assassin-like, had levied war unproclaimed. The princely hierarch in thy bright stand there left the powers to seize possession of the guardian. He alone, to find where Adam sheltered, took his way, not unperceived of Adam, who to Eve, while the great visitant approached, thus spake: Eve, now expect great tidings, which perhaps of us will soon determine, or impose new laws to be observed. For it is scribed from yonder blazing cloud that veils the hill, one of the heavenly host, and by his gate none of the meanest, some great potentate, or of the thrones above such majesty, invests him coming, yet not terrible that I should fear, nor sociably mild as Raphael, that I should much confide, but solemn and sublime, whom not to offend with reverence I must meet, and thou retire. He ended, and the archangel soon drew nigh, not in his shape celestial, but as man clad to meet man, Over his lucid arms a military vest of purple flowed, livelier than Meliburin or the grain of Sahara, worn by kings and heroes old in the time of truce. Iris had dipped the woof, his starry helm unbuckled, shewed his prime in manhood where youth ended. By his side, as in a glistening zodiac, hung the sword, Satan's dire dread, and in his hand the spear. Adam bowed low. High he kingly from his state inclined not, but his coming thus declared. Adam, heaven's high behest no preface needs, sufficient that thy prayers are heard, and death, then due by sentence, when thou didst transgress, defeated of his seizure many days, given thee of grace, wherein thou mayest repent, and one bad act with many deeds well done mayest cover. Well may then thy Lord appeased redeem thee quite from death's rapacious claims, but longer in this paradise to dwell permits not. To remove thee I am come, and send thee from the garden forth to till the ground whence thou wakest, taken fitter soil. He added not, for Adam at the news, heart struck, with chilling gripe of sorrow stood, that all his senses bound. Eve, who unseen yet all had heard, with audible lament discovered soon the place of her retire. O unexpected stroke, worse than of death! Must I leave thee, paradise? Thus leave thee, native soil, these happy walks and shades, fit haunt of gods, where I had hoped to spend quiet, though sad, the respite of the day that must be mortal to us both. O flowers that never will in other climate grow, my early visitation and my last at even, which I bred up with tender hand from the first opening bud, and gave ye names. Who now shall rear ye to the sun, or rank your tribes, and water from the ambrosial font? The lastly nuptial bower, by me adorned, with what to sight or smell was sweet, from thee how shall I part, and whither wander down into a lower world, to this obscure and wild? How shall we breathe in other air less pure, accustomed to immortal fruits? Whom thus the angel interrupted mild, lament not Eve, but patiently resign what justly thou hast lost, nor set thy heart thus over fond on that which is not thine. Thy going is not lonely, with thee goes thy husband, him to follow thou art bound. Where he abides, think there thy native soil. Adam by this from the cold sudden damp recovering, and his scattered spirit returned, to Michael thus his humble words addressed. Celestial, whether among the thrones, or named of them the highest, for such of shape may seem prince above princes, gently hast thou told thy message, which might else in telling wound, and in performing enders, what besides of sorrow and dejection and despair of frailty can sustain. Thy tidings bring departure from this happy place, our sweet recess, and only consolation left familiar to our eyes. All places else inhospitable appear and desolate, nor knowing us nor now, and if by prayer incessant I could hope to change the will of him who all things can, I would not cease to weary him with my assiduous cries. But prayer against his desolate decree no more avails than breath against the wind, blown stifling back on him that breathes it forth. Therefore to his great bidding I submit. This most afflicts me, that departing hence as from his face I shall be hid, deprived his blessed countenance. Here I could frequent with worship place by place where he vouchsafed presence divine, and to my sons relate. On this mount he appeared, under this tree stood visible, among those pines his voice I heard. Here with him at this fountain talked. So many grateful altars I would rear, of grassy turf, and pile up every stone of lustre from the brook, in memory of monument to ages, and thereon offer sweet-smelling gums and fruits and flowers. In yonder nether world, where shall I seek his bright appearance, or footsteps trace? For though I fled him angry, yet recalled to life prolonged and promised race, I now gladly behold, though his utmost skirts of glory, and far off his steps adore. To whom thus Michael with regard benign: Adam, thou knowest heaven, his and all the earth, not this rock only. His omnipresent fills land, sea, and air, and every kind that lives. Fermented by his virtual power and warmed, all the earth he gave thee to possess and rule. No despicable gift. Surmise not then his presence to these narrow bounds confined of paradise or Eden. This had been perhaps thy capital seat, from whence had spread all generations, and had hither come from all the ends of the earth to celebrate and reverence thee, their great progenitor. But this preeminence thou hast lost, brought down to dwell on even ground now with thy sons. Yet doubt not but in valley and in plain, God as he is as here, and will be found alike present. And of his presence may a sign still following thee, still compassing thee round with goodness and paternal love, his face express, and of his steps the track divine, which that thou mayest believe and be confirmed, ere thou from hence depart, now I am sent to shew thee what shall come in future days. To thee and to thy offspring, good with bad, expect to hear, supernal grace contending with sinfulness of men, thereby to learn true patience, and to temper joy with fear, and pious sorrow equally inured, by moderation either state to bear, prosperous or adverse. So shalt thou lead safest thy life, and best prepared endure thy mortal passage when it comes. Ascend this hill, let Eve, for I have drenched her eyes, here sleep below, while thou to foresight wakest, as once thou slepst, while she to life was formed, to whom thus Adam gratefully replied. Ascend, I follow thee, safe guide, the path thou leadest me, and to the hand of heaven submit, however chastening to the evil turn my obvious breast, arming to overcome by suffering, and earn rest from labour won, if so I may attain, so both ascend in the visions of God. It was a hill of paradise, the highest, from whose top to the hemisphere of earth, in clearest ken stretched out to amplest reach of prospect lay, not higher that hill nor wider looking round, whereupon the different cause the tempter set of Adam in wilderness to shew him all earth's kingdoms and their glory. His eye might there command wherever stood city of old and modern fame, the seat of mightiest empires, from the destined walls of Kambalu, seat of Cathian Khan, and Samarkand by Oxus, Tamir's throne to Paquin of Sinian kings, and thence to Agra and Lahore, of great Mogul down to the golden Khersones, or where to the Persian in Ekbatan sate, or since in Hispahan to where Russian Tsars in Moscow, or the Sultan in Byzance, Turkestan born, nor could his eye not ken the empire of Negus, or to his utmost port Akoko, and the less maritime kings Mombasa and Quiloa, and Melind and Sofala, though thought or fear to the realm of Congo and Angola farthest south, or thence from Niger flood to Atlas Mont, the kingdoms of Almansor, Fez and Sus, Morocco and Algiers, and Tremessin, on Europe thence, and when where Rome has to sway the world in spirits, perhaps he also saw rich Mexico, the seat of Moctezuma, and Cusco in Peru, the richest seats of Atabalpa, and yet unspoiled Guinea, whose great city Gerion's sons call El Dorado. But to nobler sights, Michael, from Adam's eyes the film removed, which that false fruit that promised clearer sight had bred, then purged with Euphrates and rue the visual nerve, for he had much to see, and from the well of life 3 drops instilled, so deep the power of these ingredients pierced, even to the inmost seat of mental sight, that Adam now enforced to close his eyes, sunk down, and all his spirits became entranced. But him the gentle angel by the hand soon raised, and his attention thus recalled: Adam, now open thine eyes, and first behold. Where am I? Lost myself. Now open thine eyes, and first behold the effects which thy original crime hath wrought, in some to spring from thee who never touched the accepted tree, nor with the snake conspired, nor sinned thy sin, yet from that sin derived corruption to bring forth more violent deeds. His eyes he opened and beheld a field, part arable and tilled, whereupon were sheaves new reaped, the other part sheep walks and folds, if missed an altar, as the landmark stood, rustic, of grassy sword, thither anon. A sweety reaper from his tillage brought first fruits, the green ear and the yellow sheath, unculled as came to hand. A shepherd next, more meek, came the firstlings of his flock, choicest and best. Then, sacrificing, laid the inwards of their fat, with incense strewed, on the cleft wood, and all due rites performed. His offspring soon propitious fire from heaven consumed with nimble glance and grateful steam the others not, for his was not sincere. Whereat he inly raged, and as they talked, smote him from the midriff with a stone that beat out life. He fell, and deadly pale groaned out his soul, with gushing blood effused. Much at that sight was Adam in his heart dismayed, and thus in haste to the angel cried, O teacher, some great mischief hath befallen to that meek man, who well had sacrificed. Is piety thus not pure devotion paid? To whom Michael thus, he also moved, replied, These two are brethren, Adam, and to come out of thy loins the just hath slain, for envy that his brother's offering found from heaven acceptance, but the bloody fact will be avenged, and the other's faith approved. Lose no reward. Though here thou see him die, rowling in dust and gore, to which our sire, alas, both for the deed and for the cause. But have I now seen death? Is this the way I must return to native dust? O sight of terror, foul and ugly to behold, horrid to think, how horrid to feel! To whom thus Michael, Death thou hast seen in his first shape on a man, but many shapes of death, and many other ways that lead to his grim cave, all dismal, yet to sense more terrible at the entrance than within. Some, as thou swayest, by violent strokes shall die, by fire, flood, famine, by intemperaments more in meats and drink, which on the earth shall bring diseases dire, of which a monstrous crew before thee shall reappear, that thou mayest know what misery thine inabstance of Eve shall bring on men. Immediately a place before his eyes appeared, sad, noisome, dark, a Lazar house it seemed, wherein were laid numbers of all diseased, all maladies, of ghastly spasm, of racking torture, qualms of heart-sick agony, all favours, kinds, convulsions, epilepsies, fierce catarrhs, intestine stone and ulcer, colic pangs, dropsies and asthmas, and joint-racking rheums. Dire was the tossing, deep the groans, despair tendered the sick busiest from couch to couch, and over them triumph death his dart shook, but delayed to strike. Thou oft invoked with vows of as their chief god, good, as their chief good and final hope. Sight so deformed, what heart of rock could long, dried, dry-eyed behold? Adam could not, but wept, though not of woman born. Compassion quelled his best of man, and gave him up to tears a space, till firmer thoughts restrained excess, and scarce recovering words his plaint renewed. O miserable mankind, to what fall degraded, to what wretched state reserved, better end here unborn? Why is life given to be thus wrested from us? Rather why obtrude on us thus, who, if we knew what we receive, would either not accept life offered, or soon beg to lay it down, glad to be so dismissed in peace? Can thus the image of God in man, created once so godly and erect, though faulty since, to such unsightly sufferings be debased under inhuman pains? Why should man, retaining still divine similitude in part, from such deformities be free, and for this his Maker's image sake exempt? Their Maker's image, answered Michael, then forsook them, when themselves they vilified to serve ungoverned appetite, and took his image, whom they served, a brutish vice, inductive mainly to the sin of Eve. Therefore so abject is their punishment, disfiguring not God's likeness, but their own, or if his likeness, by themselves defaced, while they pervert pure nature's healthy rules to loathsome sickness, worthily, since they God's image did not reverence in themselves. I yielded it just, said Adam, and submit. I yield it just, said Adam, and submit. But is there yet no other way, besides these painful passages, how we may come to death, and mix our connatural dust? There is, said Michael. If thou well observe the rule of not too much, by temperance taught, in what thou eatest and drinkest, seeking from thence due nourishment, not gluttonous delight, till many years over thy head return, so mayest thou live, till like ripe fruit thou drop into thy mother's lap, or be with ease gathered, not harshly plucked, for death mature. This is old age. But then thou must outlive thy youth, thy strength, thy beauty will change to withered, weak, and grey. Thy senses then obtuse, all taste of pleasures must forego, to what thou hast, and for the air of youth, hopeful and cheerful in thy blood will reign, a melancholy damp of cold and dry, to weigh thy spirits down, and last consume the balm of life, to whom our ancestor, henceforth I fly not death, nor would prolong life much, bent rather how I may be quiet, quit fairest and easiest of this cumbrous charge, which I must keep till appointed day of rendering up. Michael to him replied, Nor love thy life, nor hate, but what thou livest live well, how long or short permit to heaven, and now prepare thee for another sight. He looked and saw a spacious plain, whereon were tents of various hue. By some were herds of cattle grazing, others whence the sound of instruments that made melodious chime was heard, of harp and organ, and who moved their stops and chords was seen. His volant touch instinct through all proportions low and high fled, and pursued transverse the resonant fugue. In other parts stood one who at the forge labouring, to massy clods of iron and brass had melted. Whether found where casual fire had wasted woods and mountain or in vale, down to the veins of earth, thence gliding hot to some cave's mouth, or whether washed by stream from underground, the liquid ore he drained into fit moulds prepared, from which he formed first his own tools, then what might else be wrought for fill of graven in metal. After these, but on the heather side of different sort, from the high neighbouring hills, which was their seat, down to the plain descended. But their guise just men they seemed, and all their study bent to worship God aright, and know his works, not hid, nor those things which lost might preserve freedom and peace to men. They on the plain long had not walked, when from the tents behold a bevy of fair women, richly gay in gems and wanton dress. To the harp they sung soft amorous ditties, and in dance came on. The men, though grave, eyed them, and let their eyes rove without rein, till in the amorous net fast caught they liked, and each other his liking chose. And now of love they treat till the even star, love's harbinger, appeared. Then all in heat they light the nuptial torch, and bid invoke Hymen. Then first to marriage rites invoked, with feast squeak squeak. I've lost where I am now. Oh well. With feast and music all the tents resound, such happy interview and fair event of love and youth not lost, songs, garlands, flowers, and charming symphonies attached the heart of Adam. Soon inclined to admit delight, the bent of nature which he thus expressed, true opener of mine eyes, prime angel blessed, much better seems this vision, and more hope of peaceful days portends. Then those two passed. Those were of hate and death, or pain much worse. Here nature seems fulfilled in all her ends. To whom thus Michael, judge not what is best, by pleasure, though to nature seeming meet created, as thou art to nobler end, holy and pure, conformity divine. Those tents thou sawest so pleasant were the tents of wickedness, wherein shall dwell his race who slew his brother. Studious they appear of arts that polish life, inventors rare and mindful of their maker, though his spirit taught them, but they his gifts acknowledge none. Yet they a beauteous offspring shall beget. For that fair femel troop thou sawest, that seemed of goddesses so blithe, so smooth, so gay, yet empty of all good wherein consists women's domestic honour and chief praise, bred only and contempted to the taste of lustful appearance, to sing, to dance, to dress, and trule the tongue and rule the eye, to those that sober race of men whose lives religious titled them the sons of God, shall yield up all their virtue, all their fame ignoble, to the trains and to the smiles and these fair atheists, and now swim in joy. Long to swim at large and laugh, for which the world along a world of tears must weep. To whom thus Adam of short joy bereft, of pity and shame, that thou who to live well entered so fair, should turn aside to tread paths indirect, or in the midway faint. But still I see the tenor of man's woe holds on the same from woman to begin. From man's effeminate slackness it begins, said the angel who should better hold his place, by wisdom and superior gifts received, and by now prepare thee for another scene. He looked and saw wide territory spread before him, towns and rural works between, cities of men with lofty gates and towers, conquerors in arms, fierce faces threatening war, giants of mighty bone and bold emprise. Part wield their arms, part curb the forming steed, single or in array of battle ranged, both horse and foot, not ideally mustrung stood. One way a band select from forage drives a herd of beeves, fair oxen and fair kine. From a fat meadow ground or fleecy flock, ewes and their bleating lambs over the plain. Their booty scarce with life the shepherds fly, but call in aid with tax of bloody fray. With cruel tournament the squadron's joy, where cattle pastured late now scattered lies with carcasses, and arms there inside field deserted. Others to sight of strong lay siege encamped by battle. Others to a city strong laid siege, encamped by battery, scale and mine, assaulting others from the wall defend, with dart and javelin, stones and sulphurous fire. On each hand slaughter and gigantic deeds, in other part the sceptre heralds call to council in the city gates. Anon grey-headed men and grave with warriors mixed assemble, and harangues are heard, but soon in facetious opposition, till at last of middle age one rising eminent in wise depot spake much of right and wrong, of justice, of religion, truth and peace, and judgment from above. Him old and young exploded, and had seized with violent hands, had not a cloud descending snatched him thence unseen amid the throng. So violence proceeded, and oppression, and sword law, through all the plain, and refuge none was found. Adam was all in tears, and to his guide lamenting turned full sad. Oh, what are these death ministers, not men, who thus deal death inhumanly to men, and multiply 10,000-fold the sin of him who slew his brother? For of whom such massacre make they but of their brethren, men of men? But who was that just man, whom had not heaven rescued, had in his righteousness been lost? To whom thus Michael? These are the product of those ill-mated marriages thou sawest, where good with bad were matched, who of themselves adore to join, and by imprudence mixed, produce prodigious births of body or mind. Such were these giants, men of high renown, for in those days might only shall be admired, and valour and heroic virtue called, to overcome in battle and subdue nations, and to bring home spoils with the infinite manslaughter. Shall he be held the highest pitch of human glory, and for glory done of triumph, to be styled great conquerors, patrons of mankind? Gods and sons of gods, destroyers rightly are called, and plagues of men. Thus fame shall be achieved, renown on earth, and what merits fame in silence hid? But he the seventh from thee, whom thou behell'st, though only righteous in a world of perverse, and therefore hated, therefore so beset with foes for daring single to be just, and utter odious truth, that God would come to judge them with his saints. Him the Most High wrapped in balmy cloud with winged steeds did, as thou sawest, receive to walk with God high in salvation and the climes of bliss, exempt from death, to shew thee what reward awaits the good, the rest what punishment, which now direct thine eyes and soon behold. He looked and saw the face of things quite changed. The brazen throat of war had ceased to roar, and now all was turned to jollity and game, to luxury and riot, feast and dance, marrying or prostitution, as befell rape or adultery, where passing fair allured them thence from cups to civil broils. At length a reverend sire among them came, and of their doings great dislike declared, and testified against their ways. Here oft frequented their assemblies, where so met triumphs or festivals, and to them preached conversation and repentance, as to souls in prison under judgment imminent. But all in vain, which when he saw, he ceased contending, and removed his tents far off. Then from the mountain hewing timber tall, began to build a vessel of huge bulk, measured by cubit, length and breadth and height, smeared round with pitch, and in the side a door contrived, and of provisions laden large for man and beast. When lo, a wanderer strange, of every beast and bird and insect small, came sevens and pairs, and entered in, as taught their order. Last the sire and his 3 sons, with their 4 wives, and God made fast the door. Meanwhile the south wind rose, and with black wings wide hovering, all the clouds together drove from under heaven, the hills to their supply vapour, an exhalation dusk and moist, sent up amain. And now the thickened sky like a dark ceiling stood, down rushed the rain impetuous, and continued till the earth no more was seen. The floating vessel swum, uplifted and secure with beaked prow, rode tilting o'er the waves, or dwellings else flooded, overwhelmed, and them with all their pomp deep under water rolled, sea covered sea, sea without shore, and in their palaces where luxury late reigned, sea monsters whelped and stabbed, or stabled of mankind so numerous late, all left in one small bottom, swum embarked. How didst thou grieve then, Adam, to behold the end of all thy offspring, end so sad, depopulation, of thee another flood of tears and sorrow, a flood thee also drowned and sunk thee as thy sons still gently reared by the angel, and on thy feet thou stoodest at last, through comfortless as when a father mourns his children. All in view destroyed at once, and scarce to the angel utterest thou plaint, O visions till foreseen, better had I lived ignorant of future, so had borne my part of evil only, each day's lot, all another to bear, these now, that were dispensed, the burden of many ages on me light, at once by my foreknowledge gaining birth abortive, to torment me ere they being, with thought that they must be. Let no man speak henceforth to be foretold what shall befall him or his children. Evil he may be sure, which neither his foreknown can prevent, and he the future evil shall no less in apprehension than in substance feel grievous to bear. But that care now is past, man is not whom to warn those few escaped famine and anguish will at last consume wandering that watery desert. I had hope when violence was ceased, and war on earth all would have then gone well. Peace would have crowned, and length of happy days the race of man. Bang, bang, bang. Maybe my neighbour's home. Ooh, we are. We're about halfway through. We're nearly an hour in, so I'm just going to finish a little bit off. I might just stop here, finish this little bit off, and then stop, because I don't want to go for 2 hours. So yeah, it is going to be 2 parts. I thought it would be, but whatever. Anyway, I had hoped when violence was ceased and war on earth all would have then gone well. Peace would have crowned with length of happy days the race of man. But I was far deceived. For now I see peace to corrupt no less than war to waste. How comes it thus? Unfold celestial guide, and whether the race of men will end. We shall end there today. So yeah, okay. That took me longer than I thought it was going to get halfway through that. But yeah, I've got 15 pages left. I've read 15, 16, 17 pages, so yeah, I'm not going to read for another 45 minutes. So yeah, we'll come back next week with the final installment of Paradise Lost. I then might take a week or 2 off as I work out what I'm going to do next. As I say, might change it up a bit and draw a picture and read over the drawing of the picture, which will go straight onto YouTube rather than here on Twitch, because nobody watches this. So we'll see. But might go to Divine Comedy, might do some ghost stories, not sure yet. I know I think I promised Divine Comedy, so I might have to do Divine Comedy first. That again is a big book. I'm not going to do all 3. Maybe in long-term future I'll do all 3, but not next. I'll do the fun one first. Might do Purgatory at some point. Heaven's quite boring. So anyway, that's it. So I shall end there. You can still find me over on Stolen Fires playing Tales from the Loop. Soon we've recorded the Old Gods episode for Dark Days Radio. That should be out soon, this week I think. Can't remember when. Where I make mistakes. That's what you get for me trying to read a 400-page book when I don't have time. Anyway, yeah, so there's that'll come out. We're playing Old Gods at some point on Stolen Fires. Don't think we're starting this week, possibly next week. Meh. But yeah, come join us over on Stolen Fires for shenanigans about me teaching Americans what English food is all about in Tales from the Loop. It's quite good fun. They may have a pet called Stuart. So anyway, thank you all. Again, links in the show notes for where you can get this version of the Paradise Lost from, and all my socials where I'm spamming pictures. So yeah, I'm meant to be drawing a map at the moment, so sorry, Tom, not started yet. So yeah, thank you for that. I hope you enjoyed. All that is left for me to say is goodbye, my friend.